People think Hollywood horror is just rumors, rituals, dark rooms, missing people. But if you look close, the patterns are real. The cases that vanish, the victims who stay silent, the laws against witchcraft overseas, and the eyes of men who swear they didn't sell their soul. Most people scroll past it. I didn't. Because I was there the night the truth slipped into my room, quiet, pale, smiling from the shadows, while I stared into a closet that should have been empty. What I saw didn't feel human, and what followed me felt worse. So before this begins, brace yourself. When you hear what was waiting in that closet, you may start wondering who you are when the dark finally looks back. I learned early in life that fear doesn't matter when someone you care about is on the line. The Army taught me that. Or maybe it revealed something that was already in me. There was a night overseas, dust thick in the air, moon low, radios crackling with panic, when one of our guys got pinned behind a broken wall. Nobody could see him through the smoke, but we could hear him. His breathing, his pain, his fear. Command said, fall back, said it wasn't worth the risk. But we all looked at each other, and the same answer came out of every mouth at once. We don't leave our own behind. We went back for him. We carried him out, and I carried that belief with me long after I hung up my uniform. Civilian life didn't make sense at first. Everything moved slower. People argued about things that didn't matter, and the world didn't feel as sharp, as focused, as honest. So I became a private bodyguard. It was the closest thing to structure, to brotherhood, to that old code that kept me alive. And that's how I met Shawn. We weren't just co-workers. He was the first guy since the military who understood me without needing anything explained. Same routines, same habits, same dark humor, same unspoken rules. We'd watch each other's blind spots, cover each other's exits, work the same late night shifts, and laugh about the stupid things drunk celebrities would do. If the Army gave me brothers, civilian life gave me Shawn, which is why the night he went missing still burns a hole in my chest. It started with a last-minute call for a celebrity house party in the hills. Nothing new. High profile, high money, keep certain rooms locked and certain people out. I was supposed to take it, but I'd been up for 19 hours straight. Shawn nudged me and said, "Go home, man. I got it." We fist bumped. He grabbed his gear and he walked out. That was the last time I saw him. Around 3 a.m., I shot him a text. "You good?" Delivered. No response. By morning, his phone went straight to voicemail. No location pings, no credit card activity, none of the usual signs that someone's still breathing on the other side of a bad night. By the second day, my stomach turned into a brick. This wasn't Shawn. He didn't do drugs. He didn't run off with women. He didn't vanish without one of us knowing where he was. He was disciplined, predictable, responsible. Most of all, he lived by the same code I did. No man left behind. So I went. The hallway felt too quiet, still, like the air was holding its breath. That's when his neighbor stepped out, a woman in her 40s, wearing a robe and the kind of face that always looked worried. "You're looking for Shawn?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Have you seen him?" She glanced at his door. "It's been cracked open since last night. I didn't want to go in alone." That stopped me cold. Shawn doesn't leave his door open. Not accidentally. Not ever. I asked her to stay with me while I stepped inside. The moment the door swung open, my stomach dropped. Lights on. TV flickering static. Boots neatly lined up by the door. Jacket draped over a chair. Badge on the counter. And then the thing that made everything worse. His gun was still in its case. Shawn never left home without his gun, not even to take out the trash. I scanned the room the way I was trained. Slow, purposeful, reading the space. That's when I saw the papers on the kitchen table. At first it looked like clutter, the kind that piles up when you're working on something late. But when I stepped closer, the titles hit me like a punch. UAE Criminal Code, Witchcraft and Sorcery Penalties. Satanic church banned overseas, government response. Symbolism and ritual practices in elite circles. Hidden rooms in celebrity homes, what staff know, dark arts, modern resurgence, and private laws. And there were notes, scribbled by Shawn in a rush, arrows connecting articles, dates circled, words underlined, private room, no footage, paid off. Why UAE law? Why now? My skin prickled. Shawn wasn't a conspiracy guy. He didn't waste time on nonsense. If he had printed these out, circled them, connected them, he was on to something. Something he didn't get the chance to finish. The neighbor hovered near the doorway, whispering, "What does all that mean?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. And the truth is, I didn't want to know. I walked deeper inside. The air felt off, heavy, like the room was holding something I couldn't see. His bedroom door was open. I swallowed hard, forcing myself forward. Inside, everything was neat, too neat. And then, a feeling washed over me. Not a sound, not a draft, not anything I could describe. I didn't realize I was gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Shawn's apartment was fading in the rearview mirror, but the feeling inside it, the weight, the presence, had come with me. I kept replaying it, trying to force a sane explanation on something that refused to be explained. Exhaustion, stress, a hallucination? No, I knew better. There are things the mind invents and things the mind remembers. And that pale man in the corner, still as a photograph, smiling without warmth, felt burned into my memory like a brand. I whispered into the empty car, "I'm coming for you, brother." The military code wasn't something I'd ever let go of. Not in war, not afterward, and definitely not now. If Shawn found something he wasn't supposed to find, then I needed to understand exactly what young men in this industry were walking into. So I started where he started. Music producers, studio runners, assistants, people who wanted access. It wasn't hard to find them. The industry is full of young guys chasing dreams, hungry enough to do anything, literally anything, to get noticed. I met one in a studio off Fairfax. He couldn't have been more than 19. He told me, "It's not about talent, bro. It's about being in the right room." I asked what room he meant. He lowered his voice. "The ones upstairs." I pressed further, but he backed off quick, eyes shifting, hands shaking slightly. That was the first sign. The second came from an engineer who said he was invited to a private vibe session at a mansion in the hills. He wouldn't talk about what happened. He just said, "When they take your phone, run." Then he left the cafe abruptly and never looked back. I met others too. Dancers, videographers, interns. Boys barely old enough to rent a car, but already carrying burnout in their eyes. Some were excited, some terrified, some hollow. One producer finally offered to show me how to get close to the right people. We were supposed to meet at a studio at midnight. He didn't show. His phone went off. His social media disappeared. The studio lights were off when I arrived. Someone had erased him in 24 hours. Each dead end, each missing person, each panicked expression made one thing undeniable. Shawn didn't just stumble into danger. He stepped into a machine built to hide it. I left the empty studio lot, feeling the weight of eyes on my back. Not just paranoia, instinct. Someone followed me into the parking lot. Footsteps matched mine until I stopped. And then, silence. A black SUV rolled past me, slow, windows tinted. I saw nothing inside, but the feeling didn't pass. At the gas station, a man in a hood stared at me too long, expression blank. I turned away for half a second. He was gone. Not walked away, not drove off, gone. By the time I made it back to my car, my pulse was hammering up my neck. Then I realized something chilling. The feeling I had in Shawn's bedroom. The pressure, the heaviness. It was with me now, attached. I sat in my car, stared at all the notes and screenshots I'd gathered, and one word kept repeating across everything Shawn had printed. Midnight session. Some kind of industry gathering. Invite only, unlisted, rumored to involve initiation rooms. The same type of rooms Shawn circled in his notes. The same type of rooms young producers whispered about and then shut their mouths on. I knew I wouldn't get answers from the people below the food chain. The ones holding the secrets weren't producers. They were the ones who owned the mansions. I tried calling an old security coordinator, someone I trusted once, someone who knew more about the industry than any of us should. He didn't answer. Then 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a private number. His voice was shaky, whispering, "If you're looking for him, you won't find him out here." My heart dropped. Where do I find him? Silence. Then, "You need to go where they go." I asked again, louder. "Where?" A breath. Fear. Then finally, "There's a party tonight." And he hung up. I didn't waste time. I geared up like I used to before missions. Dark clothing, concealed blade in my boot, old security ID, I kept just in case, backup flashlight. No jewelry, no unnecessary weight, just focus, just intent. If this was the same kind of party Shawn worked the night he vanished, then I needed to walk in ready for anything. The drive into the hills felt endless. Twisting roads, gated estates, riches stacked on riches. But beneath it all, something rotten. I followed the address until a massive mansion appeared behind black iron gates. SUVs lined the entire street. Music thumped faintly through the thick walls. Guests in designer outfits walked past security with dead, glassy eyes. 2 guards stopped me at the gate. "Name?" one asked. I flashed the old ID, keeping my expression neutral. He studied it, then studied me. My muscles tensed, preparing for whatever came next. Then he nodded. "Go ahead." The gate opened with a slow groan. A dozen thoughts collided in my head, but one drowned out the rest. Shawn walked into a place just like this, and he never walked out. I stepped inside. The air was warm, almost sweet. Laughter echoed from somewhere deep in the mansion. Somewhere farther in, I heard something else, something rhythmic, something ritualistic, something that didn't belong in a house filled with music and lights. The door shut behind me, and for the first time since the army, I felt like I was walking into a war zone again. Only this time, the enemy wasn't holding a weapon. It was watching me, waiting, hidden somewhere in the dark. I blended in the moment I stepped through the front door. Industry parties all have the same smell. Cheap perfume, expensive cologne, weed, spilled liquor, and fear hiding under it all like mold. Everyone was already halfway gone. Girls leaning over railings with glassy eyes, men laughing too loud, half-famous artists stumbling from room to room trying to be seen. This wasn't even the real party. This was the warm-up, the free show, the part where people loosen up before the actual night begins. Security stood everywhere, big guys with tight shirts, earpieces, and that blank expression I'd worn in combat and in clubs. The kind of look that says, "I see everything, I feel nothing." One of them, a tall dude with a shaved head, nodded at me like I belonged. "You on perimeter?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "making rounds." "Cool. They got some VIPs in the back. Keep it tight. People slip off to rooms they shouldn't." I nodded and moved. In this crowd, blending was easy. I kept my pace slow, steady, purposeful, like I was just another hired guard keeping things smooth. But inside, I was scanning every corner, every hallway, every door. If Shawn really went missing because of one of these nights, then this was where the truth lived. The mansion was huge, multiple wings, 2 floors of open hallways and staircases lit with dim gold bulbs that made everyone look a little sick, a little distorted. People moved like ghosts, sliding out of dark rooms, adjusting their clothes, wiping their faces, pulling themselves together before stepping back into the light. Some were laughing, some were crying. A couple stumbled past me wearing nothing but towels, makeup running, necks covered in strange smudges I couldn't identify. No one cared. No one even looked twice. I walked deeper into the house. The music changed, the bass thinning out, the vocals echoing through the hall as if the speakers were hidden in the walls. It felt like the house itself was humming. I kept my head down, hands clasped, watching and memorizing every detail. Around a corner, a drunk girl nearly bumped into me. "Wrong floor," she whispered, giggling. "This ain't for us yet." Yet, the word dug into me. I made my way upstairs. Security barely blinked at me. They were too focused on the stairwell behind them, stopping anyone who wasn't on some secret mental list. Up here, everything shifted. The lights were dimmer, the carpet thicker, the air heavier. The music barely made it through the walls. All I could hear were muffled voices, the clink of glasses and something else, like fabric dragging on wood. I passed doors with signs taped to them. Private, no entry, off limits, do not enter. The tape was sloppy, like they didn't care if someone saw it, like the sign wasn't meant to keep people safe, but to dare them. I kept walking. One door stood out, not because of the sign, but because of the scratches. Long, rough drag marks across the wood near the bottom. Something had scraped its way out or tried to get in. The sign on this door was crooked. Do not enter. I touched the handle. It shouldn't have opened. Doors with warnings never open at these places, but it turned easily. The latch clicked. A soft sigh of cold air brushed over my hand. The room was dark, darker than the rest of the house. The lights were off, but not in a normal way. More like the darkness had weight, shape, texture. A sick feeling crawled across my stomach before I even stepped inside. It wasn't nerves. I've been shot at, blown up, jumped by 3 guys in a parking lot. Fear isn't new. This was different. This felt like walking into a memory that wasn't mine. I stepped inside slowly. It wasn't a bedroom, wasn't an office either. It was something in between. Intimate, quiet, too clean, too still. The bed was perfectly made. The curtains were drawn. There was a faint smell, cologne mixed with something sour and metallic. A smell that didn't belong in a place people partied. My skin prickled. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around. But then I saw the closet. The door was cracked open just a few inches. Light flickered from inside, low, orange, uneven. Not steady enough to be a lamp. Not bright enough to be a phone. Candles. I crossed the room. Every step felt heavier. My breath fogged in front of me. The room was cold. Too cold for a house with central air. I pushed the closet door open with 2 fingers. The sight hit me like a punch. A goat head was mounted on a short wooden stake driven into the floorboards, the neck rough and torn. Its fur was matted, dried in clumps, and its dead glassy eyes pointed downward toward a tight circle of melted black candles. Wax had dripped and hardened into thick, twisted rivers, staining the carpet in dark, jagged patterns. Behind it was worse, a narrow shelf draped in cloth, scorched in places, covered in strange symbols burned into the wood. On top of it were random objects, a rosary, a bent spoon, a silver ring, a cracked phone screen, a hotel key card wrapped in red thread, a stack of folded papers that looked damp around the edges, a makeshift altar, something someone used recently. My throat dried. My heart hammered so loud I could hear it echoing off the walls. This was no industry aesthetic. This was no haunted house gimmick. This was ritualistic, deliberate, real. I swallowed hard and reached toward the stack of papers. There was no reason to touch them. Every reason not to. But my hand moved anyway. The first page on top had one word written in messy handwriting. Diddler. Not a name, a role, a title with a purpose. My blood went ice cold. The air behind me shifted, only by a few degrees, but enough for my body to know it wasn't alone anymore. Every survival instinct from the Army, every close call from bodyguard work, every gut feeling I had ever ignored rose up at the same time. I didn't turn around immediately. Turning too fast could trigger something. Turning too slow could be worse. So I stood there, heartbeat thundering inside my ribs, staring at that word until I could feel the pressure behind me pull tighter, like the room itself inhaled. I finally turned and saw him. A man, or something wearing the shape of one, stood in the far corner of the room. The thin candlelight barely reached him, but it reached enough. His skin was pale, unbelievably pale. The kind of white that looked powdery, unhealthy, corpse-like. His hair was spiky, stiff, unnatural, like every strand had been gelled straight upward hours ago and left to dry into needles. He wore nightlife clothing, a half-buttoned shirt, tight jeans, no socks, no shoes. His collarbone stuck out like a blade, his ribs pressed against his skin with every slow breath. But the worst part was his face, his eyes, wide, unblinking, dead. And the smile, a slow, stretched smile like he was savoring something I couldn't see, something only he understood. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just stood there, half hidden in the shadows, watching me the way a predator watches something small and scared. There was no supernatural flash, no roar, no jump. Just a human shape that felt wrong on every level of existence, wrong enough to make my bones ache. When he stepped forward, just one slow step, my body reacted before my mind did. I bolted. I sprinted out of the closet, nearly knocking the door off its hinges. The room blurred past me as I crashed into the hallway, slamming into the wall so hard my shoulder cracked. I shoved past two drunk guys who barely noticed, pushed down the stairs, and forced my way into the crowd. Every few seconds, I checked behind me. I expected to see him there, smiling, waiting, patient. But he wasn't, which made it worse, because something like that doesn't just vanish. I pushed through the front door and burst into the cold night air, gasping. My hands shook so badly I could barely unlock my car. The mansion lights glowed behind me, warm and inviting, like nothing was wrong inside, like nothing evil had ever crawled out of that closet. I didn't drive away. I escaped, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Every house I passed felt like it was watching. Every shadow felt like it held that pale figure. Every thought led back to Shawn. Shawn in that apartment. Shawn researching rituals. Shawn disappearing without a trace. Shawn seeing that altar before me. And suddenly it clicked. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. Shawn didn't just vanish. He was taken. My phone vibrated on the passenger seat. I jumped. The screen lit up. Unknown call. Alabama Depth of Corrections. I stared at the phone with my heart hammering in my throat. Alabama. Shawn had no connection to Alabama. No family, no friends, no reason to be there. The phone buzzed again. I answered. Static exploded in my ear. Loud, violent, like the phone was underwater. Then a cough. Then breathing. Slow, ragged breathing that sounded like someone holding a broken rib. Hello? I whispered. Nothing. Then, man, it's me. My whole body went numb. Shawn? A gasp. Another cough. Chains rattling in the background. Then in a voice so faint I had to hold the phone tighter against my ear. I didn't sell my soul. The words weren't dramatic or rehearsed. They were terrified. Pleading. A door slammed in the background hard enough to shake the line. Someone shouted. The phone scraped against something metal. Shawn inhaled sharply. Don't let them... The line cut. Silence. The screen went black. I tried calling back. The number didn't exist. Not blocked. Not restricted. Didn't exist. I sat there in my car, staring ahead through the windshield into the empty night. My hands shook. My breath wouldn't come steady. My heart pounded in my ears. Shawn was alive. Shawn had been taken, and Shawn was warning me. The pale man in the corner, the goat head, the altar, the word diddler, the party. None of it was random. I whispered into the dark, voice breaking. Shawn, I'm not leaving you behind. Because that Army code never left me. Not overseas, not stateside, and not now. Whatever world I stepped into tonight, I wasn't walking back out, not without him. If stories like this keep you hooked, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments if you want the next story.